Hey guys, how's it going? This is Twig387, and in this video, I'll be attempting a Pokémon Platinum Hardcore Nuzlocke using only Rock-type Pokémon. Before we get any further into the video, I've noticed that 96% of my viewers aren't subscribed. If you enjoy my content and want to see more of my Nuzlockes, consider subscribing and hitting that bell and all that cliche YouTube stuff. It really does help small YouTubers, like myself, quite a lot. I try to upload weekly, so stay tuned for some crazy challenges that I have planned in the near future. Let's beat that algorithm. Anyway, the general rules for this run are as follows. If a Pokemon faints, it can't be used anymore. Set mode must always be turned on. No in-battle items. I can only catch the first Rock-type encounter per route. And no leveling past the following gym leader's ace Pokemon. As always, I'm playing with the extended species clause. On screen are all possible encounters in this run. We have Golem, Onix, a fossil Pokemon, Sudowoodo, Probopass, and Rhyperior. As you may already have noticed, there aren't that many encounters. Some of them are absolute powerhouses, but they all share two common weaknesses. They have weak special defense and a slow speed stat. I have some strategies that allow me to play around those weaknesses, but it's gonna be a tough one. Additionally, the rock typing is weak to 4 of Sinnoh's gyms, many of our rivals' Pokemon, and several other problematic obstacles. Not exactly the most favorable typing in the game, but let's see how this goes. By the way, I'm naming my Pokemon after a common theme, so if you can figure out what the theme is, comment your answer down below. Also, if you have any suggestions for future challenges, leave them in the comments below. Anyway, I named my rival Darkrai and myself Twig, as always, and so let's get into this. First off, I choose Piplup as my starter so that Darkrai gets Torterra, which I believe will be the most challenging starter to face. Then we totally crush him in battle. Oh. Whoops. Well, since I don't get access to Pokeballs yet, the loss doesn't matter, but that's definitely the only loss I'll ever take against Darkrai TV, that's for sure. I'm then challenged to yet another battle, which I totally forgot about, and so I forgot to heal. Piplup takes down Darkrai Starly without issue, so he sends out Turtwig next. This should have been a definite reset, but thankfully in-game Darkrai TV plays almost as poorly as real-life Darkrai TV, so my Piplup manages to take out his Turtwig after a while. It's time for my first encounter, a Geodude. I catch her and name her Kilimanjaro. Well, it doesn't fit the amount of characters I'm given, but you get the point. Kilimanjaro has a timid nature, meaning more speed for less attack. That's actually pretty bad, since even then, she won't be outspeeding anyone anyways. I also head to the Orberg Mines to catch an Onix that I name Matterhorn. Matterhorn has a quirky nature, which is neutral, so that's okay. It's time to take on Rourke to find out who the better Rock-type user is. Rourke leads with Geodude, so I lead with Matterhorn. Matterhorn screeches a little so that Geodude will go down before Rourke is able to heal him. After that, Matterhorn takes out the Geodude with a Rock Throw. Rourke sends out his ace, Cranidos. Matterhorn uses as many screeches as he can get off before I have to switch him out. Now I send in Kilimanjaro and go for a Rock Throw, which easily takes out the Cranidos. Kilimanjaro also learns Magnitude now, so she now has a super effective move against Rourke's remaining Onix. Because of this, Kilimanjaro easily takes it out, earning me my first gym badge. I make my way to Eterna City, but on my way there I stumble upon Professor Rowan, who has run into a couple Team Galactic grunts. He proceeds to roast the living hell out of them. Is Professor Rowan the real bad guy here? Before Eterna City, I also make a pit stop at Floroma Town to take care of Commander Mars. I lead with Matterhorn, and since Mars' Zubat can't do anything against him, I set up a few hardens. Zubat poisons Matterhorn, but I've equipped a Pecha Berry just in case. Could be overkill, but I'm not taking risks. On the next turn, Zubat does manage to poison Matterhorn for real this time, but by now he's already hard enough.
Phrasing?
Matterhorn takes out the Zubat with 2 Rock Tombs, so that only leaves Mars with her ace, Perugly. Unfortunately, because of the poison damage, I need to switch into Kilimanjaro. It's fine though, since she gets off a couple strong magnitudes, which is enough to take out the ugly cat. After finally getting to Eterna City, I'm able to go underground where I find myself an armor fossil. I restore the fossil, which turns into a Shieldon. I name him Elbrus. He has a bashful nature, which is neutral and nothing to complain about. Before challenging the gym, I also get access to a Nose Pass. I catch her and name her Fuji. She then immediately evolves. Fuji has a mild nature, meaning special attack for defense. That's not very good to be honest. Either way, she'll be crucial since she's super tanky and isn't quad weak to Gardenia's grass type moves, unlike half my team. So, I'm finally ready to challenge Gardenia. This might be the toughest battle in this run. I lead with Elbrus, who can't do much against Gardenia's Turtwig, so shortly after I have to switch into Fuji. Not off to a great start. Fuji is able to take the Turtwig to low health, but Gardenia heals, and so I have to switch out. I send out Matterhorn, but Turtwig has Grass Knot, which does more damage the more the opponent weighs. It goes without saying that Matterhorn has been on quite the bulk season, so a single quad effective Grass Knot finishes him off. Rest in peace, man. I haven't even taken out Gardenia's first Pokemon, and my team is already pretty worn out, so I really need to think of something here. I decide to send out Elbrus, as he still has some health left. Turtwig manages to set up Reflect, but a takedown is enough to kill. Next up is Cherrim. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of options here. I have to hope that the AI plays poorly, but that doesn't happen. Cherrim uses Magical Leaf, which takes out Elbrus. And also Kilimanjaro. My only hope now is Fuji. Alright, fresh start. This is definitely my first attempt, guys. I catch a Geodude and name her Kilimanjaro once again. This time she has a Rash nature, which absolutely sucks. She does have the ability Rock Head, which in this generation I prefer. I also catch an Onyx and name her Matterhorn. This time she has a Careful nature, meaning special defense for special attack. Okay, not bad. After beating Rourke with the same strategy as before, I head to Eterna City to catch Fuji the Nosepass. This time he luckily has a neutral nature. I evolve him straight away once again. This attempt I made sure to completely delete my file so that my trainer ID would change. I did so until I had a trainer ID with an odd number, meaning I get a Cranidos this time. I also make sure to search for a Smooth Rock underground since it'll be a super useful item for this run. As a byproduct, I also find tons of shards for move tutors. I name my Cranidos Elbrus. He has a Quiet nature, meaning special attack for speed. Now that's horrible. So, it's time for Gardenia once again. But this time I actually have a strategy. I slap a Smooth Rock on Matterhorn so his Sandstorms will last ages. This gives my team a special defense boost so those pesky Grass Knots won't hurt as much. I also EV train Elbrus and Fuji and equip Elbrus with a Soothe Bell. I then walk a Marathon with him, which apparently makes him very happy. Now he'll be able to deal a devastating amount of damage with Return. I lead with Matterhorn and set up Sandstorm. Sadly, this also means that Matterhorn acts as a sacrificial lamb. He dies a hero. I can now freely switch into Elbrus and go for a Return, which takes out Turtwig in one shot. It hurts my soul, but it's a necessary action. Gardenia sends out Cherrim next and thankfully goes for Safeguard. Return deals a lot, but not enough. Gardenia heals, but another Return is enough to take out Cherrim. Finally, Roserade comes out. I'm not sure Elbrus will be able to take a hit even with the Sandstorm still raging, so I switch into Fuji. Roserade paralyzes him though, which could be problematic. Roserade deals quite little damage to Fuji, and Fuji does a decent amount back with Rock Throw. Eventually, Fuji brings Roserade in KO range. Now, as long as Grass Knot doesn't crit and Fuji doesn't miss a Rock Throw, I've got this in the bag. And we've done it. We got the Grass Badge. After the battle, Kilimanjaro evolves into a Graveler. Next up is Fantina. She could be a problem, since, like I mentioned before, my team has very weak special defense, and her Mismagius has very strong special attack. This means I'll have to somehow take out the Mismagius in one shot, before she can even attack. The solution to this lies in Rollout. For those that don't know, Rollout progressively deals more and more damage each turn. So, I send out Kilimanjaro and set up with Rock Polish. Kilimanjaro gets burned, which could be a problem, but I'll have to try and see. Kilimanjaro starts rolling, which eventually takes out the Duskull. By now, I'm hoping it's built up enough damage to KO Mismagius, since she's up next. And it is. Burn damage leaves Kilimanjaro at 3 HP, so the next rollout better not miss or we lose Kilimanjaro. And thankfully it doesn't. That was a pretty risky battle, but luckily I came out on top. Next, we're challenged by Darkrai. This time around, Darkrai has gone down a dark path. He's become a monster. A monster who spams Double Team, Endeavor, and Quick Attack. I lead with Kilimanjaro again and use Rock Polish once. Kilimanjaro luckily connects with a Rock Blast, which connects and takes out Staravia. Buizel comes out, but a single rollout is enough to kill. From here, it's a clean sweep. Not even with the foulest of plays will you beat me, Darkrai. After that, it's time for Elbrus to evolve into a mighty Rampardos. Sporting a gigantic 165 attack stat, he will surely be useful. I arrive at Veilstone and start grinding for coins at the casino in hopes of getting some useful TMs, but I end up finding Looker on a secret mission to satisfy his gambling addiction. I also catch a Rhyhorn who I name Everest. Everest has a naive nature, meaning more speed for less special defense. That could be good, but could also come back to haunt me if I don't pay attention. Next is the fighting type gym leader Maylene. I'm expecting it to be a tough fight due to the type matchup. According to my calculations though, Elburst should be able to take several hits from all of Maylene's Pokemon, so I lead with him. Because of his massive attack stat, one Earthquake is enough to take out the Meditite and bring Machoke to low health. I expect Maylene to heal, so I go for another Earthquake, but she doesn't. Luckily though, Elburst took the hit very well. The Earthquake then brings down Machoke. Lastly, Maylene sends out Lucario. Forgive me, Flygon HG, but I'm going to have to risk a crit here. Lucario goes for Force Palm, which doesn't crit, but it does paralyze. Thankfully though, Elburst breaks through paralysis and connects with another Earthquake, which takes out Lucario. Wow, that was a surprisingly easy battle. I head to Pistoria City where I do some sightseeing, and then head to the gym. I'll have to face Crasher Wake and his water types, which could be very challenging. Anyway, I lead with Fuji, whom I taught Thunderbolt from Veilstone Game Corner for this exact reason, to take out Wake's Gyarados in one hit. Quagsire comes out next, so Fuji sets up a Sandstorm now just in case. This allows Elburst to switch in without taking too much damage. Quagsire goes for Water Pulse next, which does a decent amount, but Elburst is holding a Citrus Berry, which restores a good amount of health. Elburst takes out Quagsire with another Earthquake. Finally, Floatzel comes out. Floatzel is fast and hits pretty hard, so I gotta pray he doesn't crit. Thankfully, Elburst lives, and so Elburst can retaliate with a Thunder Punch, which kills the Floatzel. Another surprisingly easy battle. Gotta say, Elburst is coming in very clutch. I help out Cynthia by bringing a pendant to her grandma. I'm no simp, I promise, but as I arrive, Cyrus shows up and challenges me to a battle. I was finally able to buy the TM for Swords Dance and teach it to Elburst, so I start setting up. On the next turn, a single Earthquake takes out poor little Sneasel. Next is Golbat, but a Zen Headbutt is enough to take it out. Last out is Murkrow, but he too goes down to a Thunder Punch. After that, I head to Route 221 to get my final encounter, Sudowoodo. I catch her and name her Blanc, and because I'm an uncultured barbarian, I will be pronouncing it Blanc. Blanc has a calm nature, so more special defense and less attack. Dang, I'm not lucky with these natures, am I? By now, it's a tradition for me to forget about the rival fight in Canalave City. Darkrai leads with Staraptor and I with Elbrus. Staraptor can't do much yet, so Elbrus is able to take it out without too much risk. Floatzel comes out, but he doesn't know any too threatening moves yet, so Elbrus stays in and takes out Floatzel with an Earthquake. Next up is my team's worst nightmare, Torterra. I send out Blanc, who is able to tank some hits. An Ice Punch gets Torterra to red health, but since Blanc knows Sucker Punch, he's able to finish off the Torterra. Bomb defused. Heracross is next up, so I switch into Kilimanjaro. She thankfully tanks 2 Brick Breaks. I'm still waiting for a lethal crit. It's bound to happen at some point. Either way, Kilimanjaro brings Heracross to red health, after which a Sucker Punch is able to take him out. Last is Rapidash. I send out Everest, and since Rapidash really can't do anything to her, Everest seals the deal with a Rock Blast. Next up is Byron. Normally a Steel-type gym would be a major issue for Rock types, but I have a lot of ground coverage, so I'm not expecting it to be a hard battle at all. Byron starts off with a Magneton, and I send out Kilimanjaro. Magneton decides to use Metal Sound, which allows Kilimanjaro to take it out without getting hurt. Steelix comes out next, and goes for a Flash Cannon, which, after the special defense drop, almost takes out Kilimanjaro. She lives though, and is able to take out Steelix with 2 Earthquakes. Finally, Bastiodon comes out. I'm not sure a single Earthquake will be able to take out Bastiodon, but since Bastiodon isn't particularly offensive, I decide to just send out Elbrus. This will decide who the better fossil Pokemon is. Well, that was a pretty clear answer. After that, Everest finally evolves into a Rhydon, and because I've allowed for impossible evolutions, she also evolves into a Rhyperior. After taking care of some plot, it's time to take on the Ice-type leader, Candice. I've taught Elbrus Rock Polish now, so I do apologize for all the setting up that's about to happen. After setting up, Elbrus takes out Sneasel. Pilliswine comes out, but there isn't much that can be done, so Elbrus takes her out too. Abomasnow really can't do much against a quite effective Ice Punch, and finally Froslass comes out. Now things could get risky if Elbrus misses due to Frostlass's Snow Cloak ability, but thankfully he connects, and so Frostlass goes down, earning me another easy win. It's time for the climax of the game's plot, so I head to Mount Coronet. First I have to take on Jupiter and Mars together with Darkrai. They start off with 2 Bronzors, and we lead with Elbrus and Munchlax. Munchlax thankfully absorbs most hits, and eventually we're able to take out both Bronzors without losing too much health. Next is Golbat and Purugly. I switch into Blanc for a reason I'm not too sure about in hindsight. Either way, Blanc has Rock Slide, which is a double target move. This allows us to take out the Golbat whilst also wearing down Purugly. Jupiter sends out our last Pokemon, Skuntank, so I switch into Fuji since none of the opposing Pokemon have any good counters for him. Munchlax also finishes off Purugly with a Body Slam. Thanks, Darkrai. Munchlax is then killed, and so Darkrai sends out Staraptor, which takes out the Golbat with an Aerial Ace. Fuji finally lands a critical hit Flash Cannon, taking out Skuntank. After the fight, Cyrus does a little ritualistic dance which opens a portal to the Distortion world. Cyrus can't dance though, so Giratina gets mad and drags Cyrus into the portal. I guess me and Cynthia have to follow. It's time for the notorious Cyrus fight. It's usually a very hard fight, but it turns out Cyrus' team is relatively weak to rock types. I lead with Fuji to set up a Sandstorm and to poison Cyrus' Houndoom. I then switch into Elbrus so that I can start setting up with Rock Polish and with Swords Dance. Houndoom almost takes out Elbrus with a Dark Pulse, but he's ready to start sweeping now, so on the next turn, Houndoom goes down to an Earthquake. Gyarados comes out next, but one Rock Slide does the trick. Weavile is next, but even he can't outspeed Elbrus now, so another Rock Slide kills him. Punchcrow comes out, but suffers the same fate as the rest. And lastly, Crobat is sent out. Elbrus finishes the fight with a final Rock Slide. That was probably the easiest Cyrus fight I've ever had, though had Houndoom crit or Elbrus missed a Rock Slide, things could have ended very differently. Now it's time to take on Giratina, but unlike last time I decided to actually fight it. Turns out it's quite the easy fight, since Kilimanjaro can take it out with 3 Sucker Punches. After having taken care of all that plot, I head to Sunyshore to challenge Volkner. I decide to spice things up and not use Elbrus for once. I send out Kilimanjaro and set up with 2 Rock Polishes. After that, Kilimanjaro takes down Jolteon with an Earthquake. Same with Raichu. And Luxray. Volkner sends out Electivire, but another Earthquake does the trick. Ah yes, the classic Volkner Earthquake sweep. Before challenging the Elite Four, I have to take on Darkrai one final time. This one should be quite hard though, since he has access to ground or fighting moves on almost all of his Pokemon. So I start with Fuji as Darkrai leads with Staraptor. Staraptor has close combat, which is quite effective, but according to my calcs, Fuji should endure one hit as long as it doesn't crit. I hate to risk so many crits, but I don't see how I could avoid taking them. Either way, Fuji luckily survives a close combat, and is able to set up a Sandstorm. I pivot into Blanc, who takes a close combat very well. Blanc tanks another close combat, and thanks to all of Staraptor's defense drops, one Rock Slide is enough to kill. Floatzel is sent out next, so I send out Elbrus to tank a Brick Break. Elbrus starts a good old setup, after which he takes out Floatzel with an Earthquake. Next up is Torterra, but there's nothing that can stop Elbrus now. One Fire Punch takes out the poor Torterra. The rest of Darkrai's team can't do much. Elbrus takes out Heracross, and Snorlax. Last is Rapidash. Since I don't want to overlevel Elbrus, I switch into Everest. Everest finishes off Darkrai with an Earthquake. Maybe I should ban setup moves in the future. It's finally time for the Pokemon League. First up is Bug-type user Aaron. Elbrus sets up with Rock Polish, and that's all he needs. One Fire Punch is enough to take out Caesar, and Heracross. Aaron sends out Vespiquen, who manages to survive a Fire Punch with a sliver of health. She can't hit back very hard though, so another Fire Punch easily deals with her. Yanmega comes back out, but immediately goes down to a Fire Punch. Last up is Drapeon. Nice bug, Aaron. Elbrus finishes the battle with a final Earthquake. 1 down, 3 to go. Bertha's next. Her ground typing could actually be problematic. I lead with Elbrus, as Whiscash conveniently sets up a Sandstorm for me, and Elbrus sets up with a Swords Dance. Elbrus sets up with another Swords Dance, as Whiscash goes for Earth Power, which ends up being a crit. Wow, that was close. As long as Bertha doesn't send out Gliscor now, which is her only Pokemon that outspeeds Elbrus, I should be fine. She sends out Hippowdon next, but it too goes down to an Earthquake. And so does Golem. And Rhyperior. For some reason, Bertha sends out the only Pokemon that could have stopped Elbrus last. I send out Blanc to take an Earthquake. And on the next turn, an Ice Punch brings Gliscor to a Sliver. I know Bertha will heal next, so Blanc goes for another Ice Punch, which actually ends up freezing. It doesn't really matter though, since a Sucker Punch finishes off the Gliscor. And that is probably the hardest Elite Four member dealt with. Flint should be an easier fight due to the type matchup. Because of this, I wanted to mix things up and use Everest instead of Elbrus. Flint's Houndoom packs a punch with Dark Pulse, but one Earthquake easily takes it out. Infernape uses Earthquake on Everest for a change, but due to Everest's respectable defense stat, it doesn't really do that much. I know Rapidash will go for Solar Beam since it's the only move that the AI sees a kill with, so Everest goes for Earthquake again, which takes out Rapidash. Magmortar is up next, and I'm not sure if a Flamethrower could be lethal, so I switch out into Kilimanjaro. On the following turn, another Earthquake is enough to take out Magmortar. Lastly, Flint sends out Flareon. Flareon has literally nothing that could deal a significant amount of damage, so a final Earthquake earns me the win. Lucian is next, and he leads with Mr. Mime that almost always sets up with both Reflect and Light Screen. This allows Fuji to freely set up Sandstorm and pivot into Elbrus. Elbrus manages to set up with Rock Polish and Sword Stance, and so begins another sweep. Let's fast forward since this really isn't something you haven't seen before. And that's Lucian for you. Finally, it's time to face Champion Cynthia. Let's end this run with a final Elbrus sweep. I lead with Fuji, who I've now taught Stealth Rock just to be safe. Fuji sets up with both Stealth Rock and Sandstorm. Fuji then uses Toxic on Spiritomb, but... no. Okay, then Fuji poisons... Well, Fuji poisons it and... Okay, this is ridiculous. What in the world? Fuji eventually does connect with Toxic, and so I pivot into Elbrus and start setting up. Elbrus also holds a Citrus Berry, which allows him to gain some more health in order to set up even more. After buffing up immensely, Elbrus starts by taking out Spiritomb. Lucario also falls to an Earthquake. And so does Milotic. Even Cynthia's notorious Garchomp can't even blink before it too is taken out with one Earthquake. Roserade stands no chance to Elbrus' Fire Punch, and so it's only Togekiss left now. As I was doing damage calculations to be safe before the fight, Togekiss should actually be able to survive a Fire Punch. That's why I set up Stealth Rock at the start. This allows Elbrus to one-shot Cynthia's final Pokemon, and that is the story of how I swept the Sinnoh League with almost only a Rampardos. That's it for this run. It was definitely a tricky one, since there were so many gyms and other trainers that had the type advantage. There were many occasions where a crit would have ended my run, so I was pretty lucky in that I didn't get cucked by the unforgiving RNG in this game. It was a pretty fun challenge, but I will again apologize for all the setup moves. If you think I should ban them in future runs, make sure to leave a comment. I still really enjoyed getting to use many Pokemon that I liked and haven't used too much, as well as getting to utilize Sandstorm strats. If you enjoyed that as well, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'm uploading videos weekly, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss all that exciting content that is to come soon. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.